album by Black Dress Q. They're a two-piece electronic noise pop band from Toronto, Canada. I was introduced to them through their debut record Waste Isolation, which came out last year. It's actually on my list of favourite albums of 2018, so definitely worth going back to. Waste Isolation is in all caps, and every song on the album is in all caps. I think it's very deliberate because it's a very abrasive album, and I think it's deliberately to be like all caps as in shouting, right, sort of thing. So I really liked Waste Isolation. So they're quite a prolific band. Obviously they've come out with Thank You, I think in February.
Yeah, I've got 5th of February.
So I kind of threw this in here to see what Grant would think about this album and this band.
So I've just listened to it once. I listened to it earlier on today. The notes I've got here, I don't really have all that much notes. However, I've written, on initial listen, it almost sounded like the bastard daughter of the Mouldy Peaches, which is the guys that came up with the Juno soundtrack. Also described it as, it's almost like something from Clueless, the film, the 90s film Clueless. Almost kind of came across as being these kind of two vacuous, kind of gossipy girls with kind of noise pop over the top of it, layered on top of it. However, I think if you actually kind of spend some time to look at the kind of lyrics, there's kind of no one intelligent to it, and it kind of belies that idea that, you know, like I said, them being vacuous and gossipy and what have you. And I use the example of Death / Bad Girl, where the two artists kind of are discussing this other girl. They kind of describe her as being death obsessed. That girl's fucked in the head. She's so messed up. She's so much. But then they later go on to say, I want to be her friend, I want to be her pal, and dead bitches recognise each other. Yeah,
I think it's a really great line about dead bitches and it's delivered in such a sort of creepy way. For context, you should probably know that this sort of clueless gospel girl aesthetic is delivered over the top of heavy industrial electronics.
Yeah.
And I found in that track the vocals where they're talking about this girl are almost like they're casting a spell in the delivery. I felt like it was sort of kind of like an antidote to like Billie Eilish's Bad Guy and the sort of I'm a bad girl kind of, there's a sort of similarity there. And towards the end of that song it just ends in a sort of writhing electronic cacophony, and generally there's not a lot of singing on here. It's not even rap, it's sort of spoken word. The closest they get to singing is some of the vocals are kind of modulated a little bit at times to be a bit more melodic. But yeah, there's a lot of really heavy industrial noises on here. The opening song, Thank You, is just like an industrial machine. And then it's got another one of these sort of creepy vocal refrains. The sick only have each other.
Yeah.
Which, if anyone's familiar with the band Daughters, they came out with an album last year called You Won't Get What You Want, which is a really dark, creepy, industrial album. It's quite difficult to listen to, but it's really rewarding if you can actually give it the time. It reminds me of that album if Daughters were a sort of electro-pop duo, I suppose. But it's that sort of darkness, and that sort of leads from Thank You, we lead into the next song, Dog Shit, which is sort of bouncy electronics, talking about how everything in their lives is dog shit, but it's got quite a poppy chorus, and there are quite sort of poppy moments on here in amongst this sort of electronic chaos. I don't know why I latched onto this so much. I think it's just because it's experimental and it's heavy, but it's also melodic, and it does all of those things at once. It kind of draws me in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, there's a few standout songs for me. You talked about Death, Bad Girl.
Yeah.
There's Wheel of Fortune, which has really deranged vocals, screaming, howling, nightmarish electronica sounds. But then there's like a really poppy auto-tune chorus, which says, I dream of blue skies, I dream of green grass, I dream of one world, I dream of oceans vast. But all the while, the vocals are cracking up and crumbling, and it's at times the vocals are terrifying. But I really like that sort of crumbling pop aesthetic. It's difficult to listen to, but I think if you let it take hold, you get a lot out of it. And most of the tracks are like that. I mean, Water, sort of buzzing, grinding electronics, and it's about the people who control the money and pollute the water in the world. And it's quite dark, and then there's a poppy middle section that goes on about one day in the future I pray everything will be alright. I pray everyone poisoning water and hoarding resources will die.
Yeah.
So, and it's these sort of cutting lyrics that are, like you say, sort of, they take away from that sort of vacuous, clueless kind of vibe that you get from sometimes from the vocal delivery.
Yeah, it's the delivery where I got that.
Yeah. So as this goes on, for me at least, as it goes on, it becomes maybe a bit more cohesive, but it also gets heavier, especially with the vocals. There's nothing here worth dying for, and it's got a really cool drum beat, distorted guitar riff, so they start bringing in guitars, and then there's like a shrieking electronic sound that they know this is hard to listen to. They're deliberately pushing the boundaries. There's just a sort of shrieking electronic sound. They hold it for just a little bit too long, so it becomes quite uncomfortable, especially if you're listening to it in headphones. And then you start getting sort of black metal inspired screaming, so sort of like witchy, sort of harpy screams. And there's even sort of the electronics start going at a pace almost like a blast beat, which is a sort of type of drumming associated with black metal. So I like how heavy it gets. Maybe the most accessible song is Through the Void. It sounds a bit like a video game, like Streets of Rage soundtrack kind of. It's got hand claps, it's got guitar riffs, and then it's got like a chorus. It's almost like the guitar like from Mission Impossible,
right?
And with a sort of stomping beat, and it's just a fucking tune basically. It's a really, really good tune. Without going through every song, there's just a lot of variety. There's sort of muted vocals, there's heavy vocals, there's screaming, there's heavy electronics, there's interesting little interludes, there's guitars, grunting bass lines, and after all that, like I said, it sort of builds to a heavy conclusion. But the last song, Baby Steps, is basically a sort of cynical nursery rhyme about taking your first steps and growing up and then looking forward to a bright future. That's something that's not necessarily gonna happen. So I really like this album. I'm not sure many people will.
I think it would be quite hard. I think folk would find it quite, what's the word I'm looking for? hard to access.
Yeah, there is a barrier to entry. I'll accept that. I think
you're right. I mean, like I said, I've only kind of listened to it once, but there were tracks in there. Like I said, I don't really have all that much notes here in front of me, but I think when I heard the opening track, Thank You, I was very tempted just to turn it off, be like, forget this, man. But I did persevere with it, and there were points that I quite enjoyed Dog Shit, the second. Yeah. So that's the one where I kind of thought, that sounds a bit like Mouldy Peaches. But yeah, there certainly were points that I quite enjoyed. So I think I will go back to revisit it. Certainly, like I said, I did enjoy that Death Bad Girl song. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right, you can see how people might find it off-putting. You mentioned the kind of screaming lyrics. I mean, it sounds like they're getting murdered at one point.
I was trying to find the song, and it's basically, where is it?
I thought it was Wheel of Fortune for some reason.
I thought it was Wheel of Fortune as well, but I'm sure I had written something down about it. But basically it was like, the vocals started fairly normal, and as the song progresses they get more deranged and sort of more, they crack up more, and eventually it's like someone being tortured. It's absolutely. Like it reminded me of like a sort of damned creature. It's like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, like being tortured, like screaming, like to that kind of complete change from this female vocal to just this horrible, tortured soul.
Be interesting to see them as a live act.
Yeah, I don't know how they perform this, whether it's, I presume it's like a backing track, beats,
Yeah.
and they perform the vocals, but how they get that, how that scream is performed live would be interesting to experience
To
live.
reproduce. I imagine it being a bit of an assault on the sense. Like the whole thing just being an assault on the senses, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'd be quite interested to see that.
So, Black Futures is an album that I felt was a good experience on like a car stereo, like driving down the highway. Whereas this, I feel like, is more a headphone experience.
This.
Yeah,
Right.
Black Dresses. I think if you listen to it in headphones, you're kind of drawn into the world a bit more. And for something like this, it's got all these different layers and sort of strange things going on. You need to spend time with it, I think. I mean, like you said, a lot of people just listen to the first couple of seconds of the opening track and be like, nope,
No.
this is not for me. And that's fine. A lot of people it's not going to be for, and they're never going to get into it, regardless of how many times they attempt to listen to it. But
I suppose good things come to those who wait, doesn't it? I mean, Thank You, the opening track, kind of similarities with Death from Above's You're a Woman, I'm a Machine, the first song. That's just noise, really, for the most part. But if you persevere through it, there are some hidden gems amongst there.
yeah, it's like any album. The more you listen to it, the more you
The more it
notice little
grows on
bits
you.
and pieces that you didn't notice before. And generally, if it's a good album, your enjoyment increases.
Has any of these been released as singles? I've never had time to go.
I have no idea. I'm not sure whether these would work as singles.
That's what I was thinking.
I mean,
Like,
the closest would maybe be Through the Void, because it's like, it's got that sort of driving, like Mission Impossible-esque part to it, which is really catchy. So that's probably the one that stands out as the most accessible song, and maybe a single. But I don't know actually if they have released singles from this. They maybe have on like Spotify, like released
yeah.
a single or whatever. But yeah, so I'm glad that you
Take
did
the time
listen
to
to
listen
it.
to
I'm
it.
glad that you took the time to listen to it, because I was worried that your reaction would be, I'm not, this is shit, immediately, just be like, this is terrible. I mean, I even wrote in my notes on the first track the word, I've described it as dreadful industrial machinery, and I don't mean dreadful as in awful, I mean dreadful as in full of dread.
Yeah, ominous.
But other people would just say it's just dreadful.
It's just noise.
It just sounds dreadful.
Yeah.
It literally is just noise. But I think if you give it a chance and you're more open to sort of more experimental music, it helps if you're into electronic music for a start, and probably some of the heavier sides of extreme metal as well, because there is that crossover later on in the album where he's talking about the sort of black metal aspects. So it definitely helps if you've got some kind of love for those genres as well. So overall, sort of thoughts on...
I don't feel as if I can comment. I certainly don't feel as if I can rate it. You're going to have to give it a rating.
The first time I heard it, I probably would have given it a 7.
Right.
But I think it's better than that. I think it's a solid 8.
Right.
If you like this kind of thing. And if you like that Daughters album, you won't get what you want. You'll probably get something out of this. But that's a very difficult album to get into as well. It took me a few times to even be able to listen to the first track on that album.
Right, okay.
So it's for people willing to put in some time. Which
Put in the effort.
some people don't want to do that with music. They just want to be like, turn it on and be like, this is good. Why should I have to work at enjoying an album?
This is quite an interesting juxtaposition with the Black album, Weezer's Black album, because that's
This
is instantly accessible, whereas this is the complete opposite.
This is absolutely the complete opposite. Yeah, interesting that we're talking about these two albums.
Aye.
So
That wasn't deliberate, but it's worked quite well.
yeah, it's worked quite well talking about these back to back. So if you want some immediate pop anthems, listen to Weezer's Black album. If you want to listen to some...
You want to put some graft in.
If you want to put some graft in, yeah, and listen to some dreadful industrial beats with vacuous,
Clueless.
and black metal harpy screams over the top, then give Black Dresses a go. You might enjoy it.
Cool.
Okay, we done?
I think so.
We're done.